Chapter 3. A caucus race and a long tail. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank, the birds with draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question of course was, how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them all her life. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the lorry, who at last turned sulky, and would only say, "Degree, I am older than you, and must know better, plus or minus," and this Alice would not allow, without knowing how old it was, and, as the lorry positively refused to tell its age, there was no more to be said. At last the mouse, who seemed to be a person of authority among them, called out, "Degree, sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough, plus or minus." They all sat down at once, in a large ring, with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, for she felt sure she would catch a bad cold if she did not get dry very soon. "Degree, ahem, plus or minus," said the mouse with an important air. "Degree, are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know. Silence all round, if you please." William, the conqueror, whose cause was favored by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders, and had been of late much accustomed to usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, plus or minus. "Degree, ugh, plus or minus," said the lorry, with a shiver. "Degree, I beg your pardon, plus or minus," said the mouse, frowning, but very politely. "Degree, did you speak, plus or minus?" "Degree, not I, plus or minus," said the lorry hastily. "Degree, I thought you did, plus or minus," said the mouse. "Degree, I proceed." Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, declared for him, and even Stigand, the patriotic Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable, plus or minus. "Degree found what plus or minus," said the duck. "Degree found it plus or minus," the mouse replied rather crossly. "Degree, of course you know what it means. Plus or minus." "Degree, I know what it means well enough, when I find a thing, plus or minus," said the duck. "Degree, it's generally a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the Archbishop find, plus or minus?" The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. "Degree found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling to meet William and offer him the crown." William's conduct at first was moderate, but the insolence of his Normans. "How are you getting on now, my dear, plus or minus," it continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. "Degree, as wet as ever, plus or minus," said Alice in a melancholy tone. "Degree, it doesn't seem to dry me at all. Plus or minus." "Degree, in that case, plus or minus," said the dodo solemnly, rising to its feet. "Degree, I move that the meeting adjourn, for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies, plus or minus." "Degree, speak English, plus or minus," said the eaglet. "Degree, I don't know the meaning of half those long words, and, what's more, I don't believe you do either, plus or minus," and the eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds tittered audibly. "Degree, what I was going to say, plus or minus," said the dodo in an offended tone. "Degree was that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race. Plus or minus." "Degree, what is a caucus race, plus or minus," said Alice, not that she wanted much to know, but the dodo had paused as if it thought that somebody ought to speak, and no one else seemed inclined to say anything. "Degree, why, plus or minus," said the dodo. "Degree, the best way to explain it is to do it. Plus or minus, and as you might like to try the thing yourself, some winter day, I will tell you how the dodo managed it. First it marked out a race course, in a sort of circle. Degree, the exact shape doesn't matter, plus or minus," it said. and then all the party were placed along the course, here and there. There was no degree 1, 2, 3, and away, plus or minus, but they began running when they liked, and left off when they liked, so that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had been running half an hour or so, and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, "Degree, the race is over, plus or minus," and they all crowded round it, panting, and asking, "Degree, but who has won, plus or minus?" This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought, and it sat for a long time with one finger pressed upon its forehead, the position in which you usually see Shakespeare, in the pictures of him, while the rest waited in silence. At last the dodo said, "Degree underscore everybody underscore has won, and all must have prizes. Plus or minus. Degree, but who is to give the prizes, plus or minus?" Quite a chorus of voices asked. "Degree y, underscore she underscore, of course, plus or minus," said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger, and the whole party at once crowded round her, calling out in a confused way, "Degree, prizes. Prizes, plus or minus." Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair, she put her hand in her pocket, and pulled out a box of comfits. Luckily the salt water had not got into it, and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one apiece, all round. "Degree, but she must have a prize herself, you know, plus or minus," said the mouse. "Degree, of course, plus or minus," the dodo replied very gravely. "Degree, what else have you got in your pocket, plus or minus?" he went on, turning to Alice. "Degree, only a thimble, plus or minus," said Alice sadly. "Degree, hand it over here, plus or minus," said the dodo. Then they all crowded round her once more, while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, "Degree, we beg your acceptance of this elegant thimble, plus or minus," and, when it had finished this short speech, they all cheered. Alice thought the whole thing very absurd, but they all looked so grave that she did not dare to laugh, and, as she could not think of anything to say, she simply bowed, and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion, as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring, and begged the mouse to tell them something more. "Degree, you promised to tell me your history, you know, plus or minus," said Alice. "Degree, and why it is you hate C and D, plus or minus," she added in a whisper, half afraid that it would be offended again. "Degree, mine is a long and a sad tale, plus or minus," said the mouse, turning to Alice, and sighing. "Degree, it underscore is underscore a long tale, certainly, plus or minus," said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. "Degree, but why do you call it sad, plus or minus?" And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. "Degree, Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, 'Let us both go to law, underscore I underscore will prosecute underscore you underscore come, I'll take no denial, we must have a trial, for really this morning I've nothing to do. Said the mouse to the cur, "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge, would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury, "I'll try the whole cause, and condemn you to death. Plus or minus. Degree, you are not attending, plus or minus," said the mouse to Alice severely. "Degree, what are you thinking of, plus or minus?" "Degree, I beg your pardon, plus or minus," said Alice very humbly. "Degree, you had got to the 5th bend, I think, plus or minus." "Degree, I had underscore not, underscore plus or minus," cried the mouse, sharply and very angrily. "Degree and not, plus or minus," said Alice, always ready to make herself useful, and looking anxiously about her. "Degree, oh, do let me help to undo it, plus or minus." Degree, I shall do nothing of the sort, plus or minus, said the mouse, getting up and walking away. Degree, you insult me by talking such nonsense, plus or minus. Degree, I didn't mean it, plus or minus, pleaded poor Alice. Degree, but you so easily offended. You know, plus or minus. The mouse only growled in reply. Degree, please come back and finish your story, plus or minus, Alice called after it, and the others all joined in chorus. Degree, yes, please do, plus or minus, but the mouse only shook its head impatiently, and walked a little quicker. Degree, what a pity it would stay, plus or minus, sighed the lorry, as soon as it was quite out of sight, and an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, Degree, ah, my dear, let this be a lesson to you never to lose your temper, plus or minus. Degree, hold your tongue, ma, plus or minus, said the young crab, a little snappishly. Degree, you enough to try the patience of an oyster, plus or minus. Degree, I wish I had our Dinah here, I know I do, plus or minus, said Alice aloud, addressing nobody in particular. Degree, she'd soon fetch it back, plus or minus. Degree, and who is Dinah, if I might venture to ask the question, plus or minus, said the lorry. Alice replied eagerly, for she was always ready to talk about her pet. Degree, Dinah's our cat. And she's such a capital one for catching mice, you can't think? And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as look at it, plus or minus. This speech caused a remarkable sensation among the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once. One old magpie began wrapping itself up very carefully, remarking, Degree, I really must be getting home, the night air doesn't suit my throat, plus or minus, and a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, Degree, come away, my dears. It's high time you were all in bed, plus or minus. On various pretexts they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. Degree, I wish I hadn't mentioned Dinah, plus or minus, she said to herself in a melancholy tone. Degree, nobody seems to like her down here, and I am sure she's the best cat in the world. Oh, my dear Dinah, I wonder if I shall ever see you any more, plus or minus, and here poor Alice began to cry again, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse had changed his mind, and was coming back to finish his story.